It is the first warm Saturday of spring, and you go out to the shed to start the year's work. You reach up on the wall for the good shovel, the one your father used, the one with the worn ash handle that fit his hand and now fits yours, and you take it down, and your stomach drops. The blade is orange, pitted. There is a bloom of rust creeping up from the edge like a stain, and where the steel was once bright, it is now rough and dark and eaten. You run your thumb along the edge and it is gone, dull, and there is a little flake of the tool that comes away on your skin. And the worst of it is not the shovel. It is the pruning shears beside it, seized shut with rust so you cannot open them, and the good handsaw gone dull and freckled, and the wrench that will not turn. Tools that outlived your father, dying quietly on the wall of your own shed. And here is the part that stings, friend. You did nothing wrong. You cleaned them, you wiped them down at the end of the season, and you hung them up careful, the way a man is supposed to. You were not careless with them. You loved those tools. Now I want you to sit with that a moment, because here is the thing that changes the whole fight, and it will sound backward. That good tool did not rust because you were careless with it. It rusted because of the too careful minutes you spent putting it away. The very wipe of your own hand down that blade, the thing you did out of respect for the tool, is a big part of what killed it. I will show you exactly why in a moment. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And you will never put a tool away the old wrong way again. And there is a better way, an old and simple and cheap way that puts a skin on steel that rust cannot get under. And it costs about $3. And one small can of it will do every tool you own and half your neighbor's besides. That is what I am going to give you today. Honestly and plainly, including exactly what $3 can do and exactly what it cannot, because I will not sell you a miracle, friend. A good tool ought to outlive the man who owns it. Mine will outlive me, and go to my grandson bright and sharp, and yours can too. Not one part of this is difficult. It costs about $3. Any man or woman watching this can learn the whole of it in 10 minutes and protect a lifetime of tools in an afternoon. I am Pastor Eli. I have kept a country parish and a country shed for the better part of 40 years. And I learned this from an old man named Amos, who kept the tools at the church I first served. A man who had a leather ledger where he wrote down every dose and every trick in a small, tight hand, and who used to say a rusted tool was a sin of neglect you can see. He was right, and I still have his ledger. Now, before we start, I owe you an honest word, and I want to give it to you up front so you carry it the whole way. The very thing I am about to hand you, this $3 fix, carries one real danger with it. Used wrong, it has burned barns to the ground. It has burned houses. It has taken lives, and it does every single year, and almost nobody warns folks plainly about it. I am going to give you that danger in full before we are done, because I will not send you off with a rust-proof shovel and a shed burned down around it. So hold me to it. There is a warning coming, and it matters more than the trick. Today I am going to give you the whole of it, 7 things, the $3 coat itself and how to lay it on, the real reason your tools rust that nobody tells you, how to strip off the rust that is already there, the old bucket by the door that cleans and protects in one motion, the honest truth about the sprays in the can, the few tools that need a different hand, and the last one, the thing the old blacksmiths knew that they truly have stopped teaching, a skin you can burn onto steel that simply will not rust. And threaded through all of it, the danger I promised you. The coat comes first because it is the thing the title promised you, and I am not going to make you wait 20 minutes for it. One word before I go on. The old ways I keep, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book, and you will find it at PastorEliWhitfield.com. It is called Waste Nothing, and it is a manual and not a sermon, with a real price on every material and an honest word on every limit. I will not mention it again. If you want it, you know where it is. Now let me show you the $3 coat. The first thing, and the one the whole video is built on, is a small can of boiled linseed oil. You will find it at any hardware store, sometimes in the paint aisle, sometimes with the wood finishing. And a small can costs about $3 and will outlast you. Boiled linseed oil, not raw. The raw takes a week to dry, and the boiled has what it needs to set up in a day. That is the whole shopping list. One can. Now here is why it works, and why it beats every spray and every grease you have ever put on a tool. When you wipe a light coat of boiled linseed oil onto clean steel, it does not just sit on top like grease does, waiting to be wiped off or washed away. It dries. It reaches out and grabs the oxygen in the air, and it hardens. And as it hardens, it turns into a thin, tough skin that is bonded right to the metal, part of the surface now, not a layer on it. Rust is what happens when air and water reach bare steel. The linseed skin puts a sealed door between the steel and the air, a door that does not wash off in the rain and does not wipe off in your hand. That is the difference between a coat that protects and a grease that just delays. And laying it on could not be simpler. The tool has to be clean, and it has to be dry, bone dry, because any damp you seal under the coat will go right on rusting in the dark. So you clean it, and I will show you how to strip off old rust in a moment. Then you put a few drops of the boiled linseed oil on a cloth, and you wipe a thin coat over every bit of bare metal, the blade, the head, the bare spots on the shank. Thin. You're not painting it, you are wiping it on, and then wiping most of it back off, so there is just a faint, oily sheen left. Then you set it somewhere out of the dust, and you let it cure for a day. And the next day, if you want the best of it, you do it once more, a second thin coat. And now you have a hard double skin on that steel that will carry it through a hard, damp winter without a freckle. A thin coat, wiped near dry, cured a day, done twice. That is the trick the title promised you, and it is the whole of it. So, here is your first small job, and you can do it tonight. Take the one tool you use most, the one that hurts most, to see rusted, and give it that coat before you go to bed. The second thing is the reversal I promised you at the start, the real reason your tools rust, and once you have it, you will understand every rusted thing you have ever owned. Do you think your tools rust because they got rained on? And rain does not help. But the tool hanging dry on your shed wall, that never sees a drop, rusts too. And slower or faster, it rusts all the same, and here is why. There are two things eating your steel, and you cannot see either one. The first is the damp in the very air. A shed, a garage, a basement, the air in them carries water, even when it looks dry. And on a cool night, that water settles onto cold steel as a film too thin to see. And that film is enough. Steel does not need a puddle to rust. It needs the breath of a damp room night after night, and it has all winter to work. And the second thing is the one that will change how you handle a tool forever. It is your own hand. Yeah, the salt and the sweat and the little acids on your skin, they come off your palm and your fingers onto the steel every time you grip it, and they stay there. So when you finish a job and you run your hand in a rag down that blade to wipe it clean and put it away with respect, you are very often leaving behind a perfect thin print of your own hand in salt, right on the bare metal, and that salt pulls the damp out of the air straight down onto the steel and holds it there. That is why the careful wipe can be worse than leaving it be. You did not fail to protect the tool. You seasoned it for rust with your own hand and never knew it. Which is the whole reason the $3 coat matters so much, because that thin linseed skin seals the steel away from both of them at once, from the damp in the air and from the salt of your hand, and takes the fight out of the whole thing. The third thing is how to strip off the rust that is already there, because you cannot seal a rusted tool. If you coat right over the rust, you just trap it, and it keeps eating underneath. And you have wasted your work. So the rust has to come off first, and you do not need a wire wheel or a shop full of tools to do it. You need white vinegar, the cheapest jug on the shelf. You take the rusted blade or the rusted head and you lay it in a pan and you cover it with plain white vinegar and you leave it overnight or a full day if the rust is bad. The vinegar is a mild acid and it loosens the rust its own quiet way while you sleep. Then you take it out and you scrub it, and here is a gentle old trick. Use a wad of crumpled up aluminum foil instead of steel wool. The foil is just soft enough to lift the loosened rust and just hard enough to do it, and it will not scratch the good steel the way a harsh pad can. The rust wipes away, and there is your bright metal underneath. Now hear me on this next part, because it is where folks undo all their work. The moment that steel comes out of the vinegar and gets scrubbed bright, it is bare, and bare fresh steel rusts faster than anything. It will bloom orange again in minutes right in front of you if the air is damp, so you do not set it down and come back later. You rinse it, you dry it hard, and complete with a clean cloth, and you get that boiled linseed coat onto it right then, while it is warm and dry and bright. Strip it, dry it, seal it, all in one sitting. And one honest word, do not leave a good tool in the vinegar for days thinking more is better, because too long and the acid starts to bite the good steel too. Overnight is plenty. A day for the bad ones. Then out, dried and sealed. Before I give you the last 4 things and the old blacksmith's skin that nobody teaches anymore, let me pause for just a moment. If these old ways are worth something to you, subscribe and walk along with me. I put out one of these every week and it costs you nothing. Now, let me stop you right here, friend, because we are turning a corner. Everything I have given you so far, your grandfather knew. The coat, the vinegar, the careful hand. That was common knowledge in a shed 100 years ago. What comes next is the part that got quiet, the part the store has no reason to teach you because there is no money in it for anybody but you. So stay with me. The 4th thing is the old bucket by the door, and it is the laziest and best habit an old farmer ever kept. You take a bucket or a deep pot and you fill it with sand, plain sand, and you pour in enough oil to work all through it until the sand is dark and just damp with oil, not soaking, just worked through. Boiled linseed works, or even old clean motor oil for the rough tools, and you set that bucket right by the shed door. And from then on, every time you come in from the garden with the shovel or the trowel or the hoe, before you hang it up, you plunge it down into the sand 2 or 3 times and pull it out. That is all. And look what that one motion does. The sand scours the dirt and the mud right off the blade, and the oil in the sand wipes a fresh, thin coat of protection onto the clean steel, both at once, in 2 seconds, without you thinking about it. The tool goes up clean and oiled every single time, and it never gets the chance to sit dirty and damp overnight, which is when the rust does its work. Amos kept that bucket by the door his whole life, and he wrote the mix in his ledger in that tight hand of his, and the tools in that old church shed were bright as coins when I met them. So here is your second small job. Make up that bucket this week and set it where you cannot walk past it. The 5th thing is the honest truth about the sprays in the can, because I know what is in your garage right now, and you deserve a straight answer on each one instead of the marketing. Start with the famous one, the spray oil in the blue and yellow can. Here's the honest verdict, friend, and I will not flatter it and I will not run it down. That spray is a water chaser. Its whole first job, the reason it was invented, is to drive water off wet metal, and at that it is genuinely good. If a tool got caught in the rain, a spray of that and a wipe will chase the water out of the joints and off the steel, and that is a fine first step. But hear this clearly, it is not the seal. It is thin and light, and it is made to creep and evaporate. And in a few weeks, it has mostly gone off that blade, and the steel is bare again. So use it for what it is, to chase water and free a stuck joint, and then put the real coat on top. Anybody who tells you one squirt of it protects a tool through the winter is selling you the can, not the truth. Then there is plain motor oil, old or new. It works. It truly does. It is a real oil barrier, and it is nearly free if you save a little from an oil change. But it is messy, and it stays wet, and being wet, it grabs every bit of dust and grit and grass that touches it and turns to a black gum. So, motor oil is fine for a rough tool, a digging bar, the underside of a mower deck, a thing you do not mind being dirty. It is the wrong choice for a clean blade or a fine edge you want to keep bright and sharp. And then the quiet champion almost nobody names, plain paste wax, the kind for floors and furniture, a few dollars a can. Wax is a true barrier and it dries to the touch, so it does not hold grit the way oil does, and a thin coat of it buffed onto a saw blade, a plane, the flatbed of any tool, or right over your cured linseed skin, gives you a hard, dry, slick finish that shrugs off damp and lets the wood slide clean across it. For your good fine tools, the ones you take pride in, wax over the linseed is the finest finish there is, and it costs almost nothing. Not a spray, a little can of paste wax, and a cloth. The sixth thing is the few tools that need a different hand, because not all steel wants the same care, and getting this wrong on two kinds of tool can cost you. The first is cast iron, your skillets and your griddle, and the flat top of a wood stove. Cast iron does not want a linseed coat. It wants to be seasoned. The same black skin you build on a good frying pan. You warm it, you wipe a whisper of oil over it, you heat it until the oil bakes into the iron and turns dark, and you build that black patina up over time. And that black skin is the armor. It is rust-proof, and it is a thing of beauty, and it costs you nothing but a little heat. But hear me close on one thing, because this is where a body can get hurt. For any cast iron you cook in, any pan or griddle food touches, you season it with a plain cooking oil from the kitchen, a vegetable oil, a flaxseed oil, never the boiled linseed oil from the hardware store. They come from the same flaxseed, yes, but the hardware store kind has metal dryers mixed into it to make it set fast, and that is not food, and it never goes on a cooking surface. Hardware store oil for the shed and the tools, kitchen oil for the skillet you eat from. Keep those two straight and never cross them. The second is a good bladed tool with a fine edge, a plane, a chisel, a good knife, a hand saw. On those, resist the urge to scour them bright with a harsh pad every time, because every hard scrubbing takes a little of the good steel with it, and over the years you sand the tool away. On a fine edge, a light hand and wax is the way. Keep it clean, keep it dry, keep it waxed, and let it wear its honest gray with age. A little dark patina on old steel is not rust, and it is not a flaw. It is the tool's own quiet armor, and a wise old craftsman leaves it be. The seventh thing is the one almost nobody knows anymore. The thing the old blacksmiths and the old gunsmiths knew, and it is the real answer to a rust-free tool. So stay with me for it. Everything we have done so far fights the damp. But there is a way to make steel that does not fear the damp at all, and it comes in two parts, and the old folks knew both. The first part is simple, and you can do it today. Rust needs moisture in the air, so take the moisture out of the air where your tools live. A stick of plain chalk, the old blackboard kind, tossed in the bottom of your toolbox, will quietly drink the damp out of that closed box and keep it off your steel, and a lump of charcoal does the same in a drawer or a cabinet. And keep your good tools up off a bare concrete floor, because concrete pulls water up out of the ground and breathes it out day and night, and a toolbox sitting on the garage slab is sitting in a slow fog up on a shelf in a closed box with a bit of chalk to drink the air, and you have taken rust's water away before it ever starts. And the second part is the old smith's secret, the thing they truly stopped teaching. The old-timers did not just coat steel, they changed its very skin. They would take clean steel and heat it and work oil into it with the heat, over and over until the surface itself turned a deep, even blue-black, a hard skin grown right into the metal, not sitting on it. You have seen it on an old gun barrel, that beautiful dark blue that is not paint. That is not a coating, that is the steel wearing a controlled skin of its own, a skin that was put there on purpose so that the raw rust could never get a start, because the metal is already wearing the only oxide it will ever wear, a stable one, a chosen one. They called it bluing. And they did it to anything they meant to last 100 years. And it went quiet for the plainest reason there is. You cannot sell a man a can of nothing. There is no product in heating your own steel and rubbing oil into it by the fire. So the skill slipped away, not because it stopped working, but because nobody could put it in a bottle and charge you for it every spring. Now, the danger I promised you, and I have held it to the end on purpose, so you would carry it home. It is the rag, the cloth you wipe the boiled linseed oil with. When you are done with it, do not wad it up and throw it in the trash can. And for the love of your family, do not leave it balled up on the workbench or tossed in a pile in the corner of the shed. Here is why, and it is the plainest life and death thing I will tell you today. Boiled linseed oil gives off heat as it dries. It is a real chemical heat, the same reaction that hardens it on your tool. Out in the open on your tool, that heat drifts off into the air and nothing happens. But bunched up in a wadded rag in a pile, that heat has nowhere to go, so it builds, and it builds. And a damp, oily rag in a corner can climb in temperature all by itself through the night, until it reaches the point where it bursts into flame with no spark, no match, no cause you could ever see. The fire departments have set oily rags in a box just to prove it and watch the box burn itself down in a few hours. It has burned barns and homes, and it takes lives every year, and it is entirely preventable. And the fix is nothing at all. When you are done with an oily rag, you lay it out flat, outside, over a rail or on the concrete, one single layer, and you let it dry hard for a day or two. And once it is dried stiff, it is safe. Or you drop it straight into a metal can of water with a lid on it. Lay it flat to dry or drown it in a can. Either one, and the danger is gone completely. Never a pile, never a ball, never the trash can with the rag still soft and oily. I would not teach you a thing that could hurt the people you love. So I put the danger last where you would remember it. Now you know it, the way every old shop hand knew it, and you will handle that rag right for the rest of your life. Now let me take a moment, because here is where it all comes together. Look at what we have walked through. The $3 can of boiled linseed oil, wiped on thin and cured, that dries into a hard skin bonded to the steel where rust cannot get under it. The reversal that your tools rust from the damp in the air and the salt of your own hand, so the careful wipe was half the problem. The vinegar soak and the ball of foil to strip the old rust, and the hard rule to dry it and seal it that same hour before it blooms again. The bucket of oiled sand by the door that cleans and coats every tool in one motion. The honest truth about the cans, that the famous spray chases water but does not seal, that motor oil is for rough tools only, and that a little paste wax is the quiet champion. The cast iron seasoned black, with kitchen oil for the pan you eat from, and never the hardware kind. The fine blade left to its honest gray, waxed and not scoured away. The chalk in the box and the tool up off the concrete to take rust's water away. The old smith's blue-black skin burned right into the steel, and the rag laid flat to dry or drowned in a can, so the very fix can never turn on your family. $3, a cloth, and a skin that outlives you. And now the small honest word about why so few folks are taught any of this anymore. And I do not say it to rile you. There is no money in a $3 can that seals 50 tools, and none at all in a stick of chalk or a rag laid flat to dry. The money is in selling you a new shovel to replace the one you let rust, and a fresh can of spray every spring that never really seals, so you have to buy it again. So the plain old skill of keeping a tool bright for 50 years went quiet, not because it stopped working, but because nobody builds a business on a thing you do once with $3 and a Saturday. And a generation of good tools went to the scrap heap early, for want of a coat of oil that their great-grandfathers would have given them without a second thought. The good book tells of a servant who was handed a thing of worth by his master, and meaning no harm, went and buried it in the ground to keep it safe, and did nothing with it, and let it sit. And when the master returned, he was not pleased with the man who had buried what he was given. Because a thing of worth put into your hands is not meant to be neglected into ruin. It is meant to be kept and tended and handed on with its worth intact. A good tool is exactly that, friend. A thing of worth put into your hands, very often by a father or a grandfather who worked with it before you. And Proverbs tells us that in the house of the wise there are stores kept and oil laid up, while the foolish man devours all he has and keeps nothing. To let a good tool rot on the wall is the buried talent, the devoured store. To keep it bright and hand it on is the oldest kind of faithfulness there is, the quiet stewardship of a man who honors what he was given and wastes nothing of it. That is not fussiness, and it is surely not vanity. It is gratitude, worked out with a cloth and a can of oil. So here is what I want you to do this week. Buy 1 small can of boiled linseed oil. Take your 3 most used tools down off the wall. Strip the rust with vinegar and a ball of foil. Dry them hard and give them that thin coat, and a second one the next day. Make up a bucket of oiled sand and set it by the shed door. Drop a stick of chalk in your toolbox and get it up off the concrete. And when you wipe that oil, lay the rag out flat to dry, or drown it in a can of water every single time. Do that, and next spring you will reach up on that wall and take down a shovel as bright as the day it was made, and think of the man it came from, and know it will go on bright to the one who comes after you. Now tell me in the comments below, what is the oldest tool you own, and who did it belong to before you? And did your father or your grandfather have a way of keeping the rust off? An old bucket, a trick, a habit he never wrote down? Tell me what it was, and tell me your state, for the damp comes worse in some corners of this country than others, and I like to map the old ways by where you all write from. I read every single one. Next time, since we have been down in the shed keeping the metal sound, I'm going to show you how the old folks put a shaving edge on any blade with nothing but 1 flat stone and a little oil. No grinder, no power, no ruined temper. The way a craftsman kept a knife and an axe and a plane sharp his whole life for the cost of nothing. It is the natural next step after today, and I hope you will walk it with me. Until then, look well to what you have been given. Waste nothing, and God bless.